Good morning, we are Stefania Varano
and Rachele Toniolo.
We work at the National Institute of Astrophysics in Italy, and today we will talk to you about game-based learning and astrophysics, and we will present to you a case study. This is the working group of people involved in studies and research about playful and creative learning, and we also have a collaboration with the Game Science Research Center, which is an inter-university research center interested in game science. Talking about learning, it can take place wherever and however, and in fact it does. We learn not only in schools or when attending classes or lectures. If anything, we happen to learn more deeply and permanently in unexpected contexts. As a song said more than 15 years ago by now, you live, you learn, you love, you learn, and actually in this context, you play, you learn. Many pedagogical studies since more than a century have pointed out how playing improves disciplinary and socio-emotional competencies. Not only, it enforces our awareness of which strategies and dynamics are the most effective, both in playing and in other contexts of life. Game-based learning is the discipline that studies how games can be used in learning environments. In particular, the deep engagement and good mood achieved when playing are surely a perfect ground for effective learning. Plus, the ability that games have in creating commitment in the players and commitment with the practice and not only with the disciplinary contexts makes game-based learning very effective in sciences. The challenge is anyway to maintain the intrinsic nature of games, even in educational contexts. Otherwise, they can be seen as a mere trick to make the discipline more attractive, and the result would be the one of creating skepticism and estrangements in the players.
So the main characteristic that must be maintained in a game in order for it to keep its original nature is the motivation. It should be intrinsic, which means that the player decides to play on his own. In this way, he or she can reach a state of involvement and concentration that makes him or her perceive obstacles as manageable. This state is called the state of flow and is represented by this graphic. It implies, as you can see, an equilibrium between the challenges presented within the games and the abilities self-perceived by the players. If the former are bigger than the latter, anxiety and frustration will prevail in the player, while he or she will feel bored the other way around. Another important characteristic stands in the definition of play given by sociologist and anthropologist Roger Caillois. Playful activities must have, as he said, a well-defined and dedicated space and time, a sort of magical circle, as the historical John Hitzinga defined it. The player is completely aware of these fictitious and unproductive realities, which allows him or her to experiment without any fear of failure or mistakes. The researcher Romina Nesti points out three functions that the game can have: tool, model, or ludoliteracy subject. A game is a tool if its only goal is to make the players improve their knowledge. In this case, the game's mechanics are introduced with the only purpose of making the disciplines more attractive for the students. Instead, when the game's mechanics act as a main characters of the activity, the game is a model. Finally, a game can be a ludoliteracy subject if the activity is used to get familiar with the game's mechanics without any disciplinary aim. Games that use as models are for sure the most effective with regards to scientific disciplines because not only they improve the disciplinary knowledge, but also they contribute to stimulate and enforce scientific thinking. Indeed, the properties of a game, such as intrinsic motivation, presence of a state of flow and magic circle, can be equally referred to the characteristics of scientific research. Games developed by researchers at the National Institute for Astrophysics can be divided into two different categories. The former are adjustments of famous games. Some examples of these are a game of the goose or a treasure hunt in which one can proceed only by answering astronomical questions or solving astronomical puzzles. The strength of this class of educational games stays in their spreadings, thanks to which they encourage participation without appearing intimidating at all. They are used as tools and not as models in the sense that their mechanics have nothing to do with astronomy. The second typology includes activities created ad hoc within INAF or other research institution that stimulates free experimentation or problem-solving skills rather than the knowledge acquisition or improvement. Some examples are coding or tinkering laboratories. In these cases, the playing activity is a model and the mechanics themselves show, while being personally experimented, how science works.
Researchers at the National Institute for Astrophysics have developed a game called Talking About Resolution, which is a playful activity that involves the use of pegs of different dimensions to rebuild printed images and make others guess them out of the representation made with pegs. The idea is to let the player experiment and figure out the best way of doing so in the less possible time. What autonomously comes out is the need of recreating only the more distinctive parts of the image with the smallest pegs, the ones that simulate the highest resolution, in order to make the image promptly recognizable. This game is a model in the sense that the messages are not told or taught, but instead they are intrinsic in the mechanics of the game. And we call him somehow meiotic in the sense that the players understand that they already know all the meanings that the game is designed to inspire without the need of a formal and direct explanation. Due to its solid foundation and pedagogical validity, we decided to make a board game out of the game Talking About Resolution, and we are designing it in collaboration with the Game Science Research Center. The game, whose name for now is Pixel, will have as main aim to obtain a high-resolution image of an astronomical object in order to understand its nature and discover its main morphological and physical features. We foresee also to make a real-life version with real-life images of this game in order to act both as a kind of a tutorial for the astronomical version of the game, but also to have a transposition of the concept of resolution of digital images also in our daily life, since this concept is really important and also very present in our experience. The game mechanics will reflect many aspects of the scientific research work and many of the situations that characterize it, such as the creation, for example, of a research group, or the necessity of enhancing the instrumentation for observations and calculations, and also the choice of the topics to be investigated more in detail. We trust to be and hope to be able to show you and play this game with you at next conference, perhaps next Communicating Astronomy with the public, within a workshop. Let's hope it's going to be a face-to-face meeting in order to make it more effective and also fun. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks for the attention. These are our contacts where you can reach us for any comments or suggestions or whatever you want. We will really appreciate. Thanks again and goodbye.
Goodbye.